What's up, losers? Today I'm back with another r/fatlogic adventure. Taking a look at a couple of provocative fat acceptance posts, sharing my thoughts on them, and, no doubt, having a little fun at their expense. This is episode 114 in the fatlogic series. And I'm ready to go. So without further ado, let's get into it.
It is not uncommon for someone to ask me, what can I do to stop thinking of food? My first response is usually, eat. Diet culture is diabolical, in that it tells us to eat less, then shames us for thinking about food. We see the effects of low-calorie diets in the Minnesota starvation experiment. In 1994, approximately 36 young men participated in a study, in which they were put on semi-starvation diets. The amount they were given was more than what most diets, or wellness plans, prescribe today. These men suffered of the many complications. One universal response was preoccupation with food. These men thought about food, talked about food, read about food, dreamed about food, and fought over food. During the refeeding process, they were given free access to food, and they ate large amounts of food, and felt a loss of control. This study revealed preoccupation with food is a direct effect of starvation. Can't stop thinking about food. You very well be undereating. Your body will do whatever it takes to keep you nourished. These men took anywhere from a couple months to 2 years to feel better. And weight restoration was a key part. We live in a culture that says thinner is better. And yet this study reveals, if we weigh less than where our body wants to be, we will continue to be preoccupied with food. Can't stop thinking about food. Weight restoration may be necessary, no matter what your weight is now. Our bodies are amazing and wise, and will always tell the truth. Can't stop thinking about food. Trust that there is good reason.
Oh my god, this is such a gold mine. Like seriously, this is everything I could ever ask for in a fatlogic post and more. Let's get digging, shall we? Okay, so I wasn't even 2 sentences in when I laughed out loud, because telling someone who's struggling with uncontrollable thoughts about food to just eat has to be the most fat activist thing ever. I mean, is there any situation where that wouldn't be their solution? I'm pretty sure that if your house was burning down, their first recommendation would still be a trip to the refrigerator, haha. It's like that saying, if all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Except in this case it's, if all you've got is a belly, everything looks like a hamburger. Realistically, of course, this is laughably bad advice. It's basically like telling an alcoholic to just have a drink, to take the edge off the desire for alcohol. What these people really need is to get their hunger under control. Not give in to it. Because it's not the kind of hunger that goes away when you eat. On the contrary, eating only reinforces this unhealthy cycle of reliance on food, and causes your appetite to grow. Until next thing you know, you're appearing on My 600-Pound Life, wondering where it all went wrong. Moving on to the post's discussion of the Minnesota starvation experiment. First of all, the experiment was conducted in 1944. Not 1994, so they're 50 years off right from the start. Which doesn't exactly fill me with confidence in their ability to draw reasonable conclusions from the study. When I briefly investigated the experiment for myself, I found that it was far from the devastating takedown of diet culture that the post seemed to suggest that it was. I mean, the study took men who were already at a healthy weight, and didn't need to lose weight in the first place, then put them into a calorie deficit for 6 months, causing them to lose a whole 25% of their body weight. Which is actually significant, when you're starting at a reasonably low weight to begin with. They also made the men do a lot of exercise every week. And they limited the food they were given to stuff like potatoes, rutabagas, turnips, bread, and macaroni, so there was hardly any variety to speak of, and their overall diet was severely nutritionally lacking. In other words, the experiment put men under conditions of severe control, restriction, and nutritional deprivation, for a prolonged period, and subjected them to weight loss that was completely unnecessary, and obviously detrimental to their health. Because the point wasn't to help these men achieve a healthier life. It was to investigate the effects of semi-starvation. As far as I'm concerned, no diet plan worth taking seriously would look anything like this. People who are already at a healthy weight should not be trying to lose a quarter of their body weight. Full stop. People who are dieting should be given variety and choice in the food they're eating, within the constraints of a moderate calorie deficit, of course. And people should aim to eat a balanced diet, not just potatoes and macaroni, haha. The fact that fat activists have to dig up some weird experiment from 1944 to demonstrate their point really says it all as far as their credibility goes. I mean, there are millions and millions of people dieting all around the world right now. Why not look to them for evidence of the horrors of starvation in dieting, rather than participants in an 80-year-old experiment that didn't even resemble a 21st century diet, and was intentionally designed to starve people, not to help them lose weight for health reasons? It just doesn't make any sense. Probably the biggest issue with the post, however, is its simple failure of logic, in declaring that because preoccupation with food is a consequence of starvation, anyone who is preoccupied with food must then necessarily be starving. Because, yeah, it doesn't work that way. It stands to reason that if you starve someone, they are going to be hungry. That's just how humans, and animals generally, work. But people can also become preoccupied with food because they rely on it as an emotional crutch, or have an otherwise warped relationship with it. And pointing out the link between starvation and hunger does absolutely nothing to contradict that. Full stop. The idea that fat people, morbidly obese people, even, need weight restoration, just because they are thinking about food, is seriously one of the most hilarious and surreal things I've ever heard from a fat activist. And that's saying a hell of a lot, haha. Like, even setting aside the obvious fact that weight restoration is for people who are underweight, not just anyone. Obese people always think about food. That's why they're obese. And this habit doesn't just go away when they binge. Following this line of thinking to its logical conclusion would mean that there was never a weight at which one was fat enough. They would just keep eating and eating, restoring their weight, up and up, into infinity. It's absolute insanity, I swear. As a final cherry on top of this absolute circus of a post, we get, our bodies are amazing and wise, and will always tell the truth, because such a fat acceptance masterpiece wouldn't be complete without some weird-ass quasi-spiritualism and attribution of intentionality to one's body. Right, what more is there to say? Really, just an absolutely great post, 10 out of 10. It's going in the Hall of Fame. Moving on.
I calculate that if you go on a diet now, you could lose a few pounds in the short term, and then gain weight, develop an eating disorder, seriously and permanently screw up your metabolism, become completely obsessed with thoughts of food, put you at risk for osteoporosis, stress fractures, broken bones, thinning hair, loss of muscular strength and endurance, fainting, weakness, shortened life expectancy, and slowed heart rates. For a few months, you have a snowball's chance in hell of being thin.
I don't even know what to say to this one. It's just utterly deranged. Truly, complete madness. Paranoia doesn't even begin to cover this level of catastrophizing. Like, the idea that someone who simply decides to go on a diet needs to worry about any of these things, let alone all of them, is bananas. And when you consider the real health risks that one incurs by being obese, it makes absolutely no sense that anyone would consider staying fat the safe option relative to dieting. I think it's pretty clear that posts like these exist for one reason and one reason only. And that is to stir up a rational fear about dieting, so that those who would otherwise consider it are too spooked to give it a try, and so that those who can't be bothered trying get to reassure themselves that they're doing the right thing, rather than trashing their long-term health for the sake of short-term overindulgence. On each count, I think it's absolutely reprehensible that people are using fear to hold others back from pursuing a healthy life. And anyone who shares this kind of shit around is a giant clown. As far as I'm concerned, shameful.
CW talking about a friend's internalized fat phobia / weight loss surgery. I'm so heartbroken right now. One of my oldest and closest friends informed me today that she's planning on having a gastric bypass surgery. She needs to have surgery to correct issues from her severe acid reflux, and has decided that while she's at it, she's going for a full gastric bypass, because she's tired of living like this, living in a fat body. She's already made the appointments with her doctor to proceed, and said nothing can change her mind.
Once again, I'm left short on words upon reading this post. It's just so backwards. As far as my idea of what a friend is, and how friends ought to treat each other. Like, if a friend of mine made a hard, but important, decision, such as getting weight loss surgery, to try to turn their life around, I would be nothing but happy for them. And I would go all in on providing whatever support I could with any challenges they might encounter along the way. For this poster, however, the bigger issue is how all of this makes them feel, as someone who is still fat, and apparently happy that way, because of course it does. Right, why try to support your friends in prioritizing their health, and living their life on their own terms, when you can just moan about how hard it is for you to watch it, knowing that you could never have the courage, or good sense, to make similar changes yourself? Sighs. Sad. Man. Just sad. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the posts, and that you got something out of my commentary. What do you think? Do obese people need weight restoration? 2. Is going on a diet going to wreak havoc on all aspects of your life and health? Does being a supportive friend involve discouraging your friends from losing weight, so that you won't be left alone in your fatness? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll force you to have a giant junk food binge every time you feel even slightly hungry, and you'll blow up like a balloon in no time. Just kidding, ha ha. Anyway, catch you later.